How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today's video we are looking at two light tanks that are just completely overpowered and have been made even more overpowered since the most recent update to World of Tanks console regarding the new equipment systems. That includes advanced powertrain and also the traction system that you can put on your tanks now. These two tanks can basically add extra speed on top of what they previously were. Snakebite was able to go 80 kilometers an hour as standard, so that was before. After this update, now it can go 88 kilometers an hour forward, which is ridiculous, and I mean actually ridiculous. You can basically out-traverse anyone in the game very, very easily. You can out-traverse mediums with really good turret traverse with this tank. Similarly, with the T50-2, could go 72 kilometers an hour before the update as its top speed. Obviously, you could add on the fuel boost, which would make it go slightly faster by 5%. But then when you combine both the traction system and advanced powertrain on the T50-2, you get a 15% increase to its speed, a 5% increase to its max horsepower, and then when you combine that with the fuel boost, you can get an extra 5%. That means the total speed of the tank, if you put on both equipment, can be 20% faster than the previous one. That means as well that you will be getting all of the passive boosts, which are 10% to turret rotation speed. And if we look at the equipment, you get a 10% to chassis and hull rotation speed. So not only are you faster, you can turn faster and quicker with both your turret and the hull, as well as just basically having better horsepower that is able to keep up with the amount of top speed that is added to the tank without sacrificing any power to weight, or at least like the power to weight ratio kind of goes up enough to be able to get up to that top speed and up to the top speed consistently as well with these two. Now, why pick these two tanks as the overpowered ones? Well, tier for tier I'm talking about. These two are just ridiculous, and it's just having that speed way higher than anyone else at that kind of tier, and it also means that you're coming up against players that are generally less skilled. Usually they're newer players who play tier 6, who are grinding through some of the stock tanks, and so, you know, when you come up against people in these tiers, it genuinely is a little bit easier than when you play tier 10. So I guess in terms of the hardness of the tiers, then this is a really good tier if you're just coming on for a casual game where you just want to have a bit of fun on World of Tanks, and that is what these two tanks will give you if you play them in game and you set them up right. In terms of equipment, right, other than the two speed boosting things, you want gun stabilizer. Gun stabilizer is a absolute must with these two tanks. If you do not, you will pretty much not hit on the move. You're going so fast that your bloom is already huge, so when you don't have the stabilizers, it's even bigger. So make sure you put on the gun stabilizer as your third bit of equipment on the T50-2, and if you didn't, or if you haven't got it on the Cromwell, you want it as your second piece of equipment, considering you can't add the other speed boost on it. In terms of the other equipment that you want on the Snakebite, either go with vents, loading time, or advanced optics. Depends what kind of build you want. If you want a spotting build, go with advanced optics. That's what I'm going to take, because the DPM is not the key aspect of this tank, because you can kind of use that when you get round your opponent. So that's why I went with advanced optics, and why I've just purchased that right now. Although for some reason it's now taken my vertical stabilizers for some reason. Other than that, we will move on to some gameplay in just a second. We're going to have a look at what the kind of cool things are about the two tanks, how you can actually play them in game, and why they're overpowered. There will be two gameplays, one of the Snakebite, one of the T50-2, and I hope you enjoy. So our first gameplay is here in the T50-2. This is obviously the tier 6 Russian light tank. We've gone over what the equipment setup is in it. In terms of commander perks, we've basically gone with all of the accuracy ones, we've gone with the vision ones, we've also gone with the camo ones to boost up that vision and also try and stay undetected, as much as going 85 kilometers an hour on average is undetectable on World of Tanks anyway. So what basically is the key aspect of this tank? Well, it's tiny. It is really, really small. And the fact it can go so fast and its gun is so small and also so fast firing, allows you to basically farm damage against heavy tanks that you come up against, and you can single them out if you can. That means that you can really have some crazy games when you come up against those heavy tanks and you get round them. So making sure that you stay till the late game, I guess, preserving those hit points that you get, and basically preserving your life until the end of the game is always a key thing in light tanks, and I mean this one is absolutely no different from that. You can see this is the sort of aggressive position we're taking on Malinovka in order to just spot opponents on the enemy team, get that spotting damage, because that's something you can get in this tank. It's got good view range, allows you to be effective view range as well because of that speed. You can get around the map, you can basically become this all-round light tank, and very much an aggressive one at that as well, just because of that speed. So you see this Absolution's made a mistake. He's obviously been tracked out in the open and people can hit him as we shut him down. Now already we've picked up 789 assistance damage because of spotting those opponents in the field, and also just over to the in front of us where the Absolution was, tracking him as well. And also just getting 500 of our own damage from just that rapid fire gun that we do get on this. We picked apart that LTG at the beginning of the game as well, and because the APCR rounds on this are absolutely fantastic, really does mean that we can actually hit opponents on the move. APCR is obviously the best round for tanks that fire on the move because it's so fast, and if you're aiming in the right direction you more than likely are going to be able to actually hit your opponent with the APCR, so long as the accuracy isn't crazy bad on the tank that you're playing in. You see here what we do is we make a beeline straight through the middle of the map using that kind of ridge line in the centre where these fences are. That provides some cover, so it's unlikely that we're going to get hit, especially when we're going 80 kilometers an hour around, and it allows us to spot the opponents on the enemy team. One thing that I should note though, right, is the penetration on its standard rounds on both of the tanks that we're featuring today is absolutely awful. So do not, in any sense of the word, think that you're going to be able to pen a lot of these heavy tanks from the front with standard rounds. Now that's just not the case. The standard pen I think is really lackluster, especially on the Cromwell. I know that the pen on this I think might be about 80 pen, something like that, maybe 115 at max, but with the premium it goes up to like 140. More than enough to come up against some of the heavies, especially considering how aggressive you play this tank when you actually go in it. If you want to have some fun anyway, I always play this tank aggressive. So, you know, if you fire standard, don't be shocked if you're only actually damaging a couple of times out of the multiple times you hit the target, because the pen is just that low. Even for weak points of many of the heavies at tier 6, it's going to be a real struggle to go through with that premium round. So just take that into account if you're going to be playing, and just make sure that you put yourself in the right position. Don't go trying to hit other people that is just never going to pen, so make sure you single out the opponents that could be basically as harmful to you as possible. Now you see what we're doing here is we are taking out this Lorraine. And you see that we're kind of death by a 1,000 cuts kind of playstyle in this thing, and we get hit there, which is unfortunate. Not a common thing in the T50-2, and you certainly don't want to be getting hit too many times because you do only have 580 hit points, which isn't the biggest, especially at tier 6. And if you come up against some of those Russian 122s that have 390 alpha, it doesn't go too well for you. More than 3/4 of your hit points disappear usually if that does happen. But you can see we've picked up an inordinate amount of spotting damage already. We've picked up 1,800 actual damage as well, so just by farming that Tiger P where we got around the side of him, we were just able to use the mobility, and there was no way he was really going to win that engagement, even if he was one of a very skilled player, which I don't know if he was. He could have been, but even when you are a skilled player, it's very difficult to actually deal with light tanks, especially just from a case of actually trying to just spot them. Now this is where the British TDs just suffer dramatically. In terms of light tanks getting around the side of them, he got tracked, and I do notice that the Panzer III-4 tried to ram us, which took a lot of our hit points, but unfortunately for him, he didn't take them all, and we managed to shut him down. Now this was a perfect game in the T50-2, not the best game I've ever had. We've had one gameplay on the channel from months ago now of the T50-2. If so, you can always have a look at that if you want to have a look. I think I did like 3,500 damage or something around there. But getting 2,262 damage and 2,100 assistance damage with, what, 4.3k combined is really, really good in the T50-2. And it's not every single game, but you can certainly rely on this tank to be able to dish out a lot of damage and a lot of spotting, so long as you play it right and you last to the end of the game. And then moving on to the next gameplay clip in the Snakebite. This is the Tier 6 British light tank that we've been talking about. This is the fastest base light tank in the game with 80 kilometers an hour base, which is mad, absolutely mad. That was before the update. It goes up to 88 kilometers an hour after the update as its top speed. And yeah, this tank is one of those that is just absolutely ridiculous to play. It feels so nice in game in terms of the way that you can slide about the battlefield, and yeah, it's probably the nicer out of the two in terms of the way it actually plays. And because I like the Cromwell so much and I like the marks of excellence on the British line, this is probably my favourite out of the two, although the T50-2 is one of my faves as well. In terms of being really competitive, this thing is definitely up there. You can have some really good games overall throughout the career of playing the tank, and if you're going for those 3 marks of excellence, then this tank is one of the ones that you will definitely enjoy when you play it, if you kit it out correctly and you put in those speed boosts to be able to actually go to the top speed, and also maximise the tank to be able to have those fantastic games where the opponents just don't have a chance. And if you can put yourself in a position where that is the case, you can farm so much damage. And if you catch out those heavy tanks in the middle of the open, yeah, they don't particularly have too much fun. As you can see, this Churchill is getting absolutely rinsed by us, and also our teammates. And you know, the spotting in this tank isn't bad either. That's kind of the key of these light tanks, or at least at tier 6, is kitting out your crews in order to have speed, but also being able to actually have some view range in this kind of game. Now, I did go for a blind fire on the artillery, didn't know where he was. It was kind of just a lucky guess, I guess. Unfortunately, but also luckily, we do get hit by the other artillery. He doesn't pen, however, which is very lucky, considering the Cromwell Snakebite basically has no armour. And when I say no armour, I mean it. It really doesn't have armour at all. And you have to play it as such. Don't go YOLOing in. You can't do that. You want to be playing it like a normal light tank. You want to save yourself to the end of the game where you can be the most effective, where you can single out opponents one-on-one, and have some much better games than if you were to just YOLO in at the start of the game on one opponent against 6 tanks that can potentially hit you all at once. And that's something that I feel like a lot of light tank players get wrong, is going in too much. As I say, going in a little bit too much and going hard against all of these enemies. There's probably, what, 4 of them there, all probably aiming towards me at least. Now, we hit the building and go flying. We make a little bit of a misplay here in a minute in terms of the SU. We decide that we're going to go in front of his gun, which means that we take an extra shot that we really didn't need to take. And unfortunately, he does take quite a lot of our hit points as well. This gets significantly more hit points than T50-2, considering, you know, they're the same tier and they're the same tank class. This gets an extra like 200, which is really good. And I guess that means you can take one more extra hit when you come up against those tanks that you're going to YOLO at the end of the game, when the tank becomes the most effective. Now what you see here me doing is actually spotting opponents through these rail tracks. Now people don't tend to do this, I don't know why, but it's a real effective way of spotting the enemy team without actually opening yourself up to get hit. I'm not saying you won't ever get hit, but it is very unlikely that someone's going to squeeze around straight through the rail tracks when you just poke up like very quickly. So don't think you're going to be getting hit. Look, there's no way someone's going to be able to just snap a shot onto you unless they were 100% pre-aimed and you were just continually poking that ridge for a long time and being very predictable. So what we're doing now is, considering we've had a pretty mediocre game and our team's kind of just absolutely blitzed the enemy team, we've only got 1,800 combined, which isn't the best game, and certainly won't be one that, you know, breaks the game in terms of the amount of damage we've done. But it's a good showcase of what this tank can kind of do, the speed that it can get up to, 88 kilometers an hour on average when you're just going on the flat. And if you're going downhill, don't be surprised if you hit speeds of 90 to 92 kilometers an hour in a Cromwell. And don't forget, you also have the weight of a Cromwell. So if you come up against enemy light tanks, you can actually ram them, although it should be like a last resort if you know that you're going to have or you're going to be taken out and you need that extra little bit of damage to boost you up on your marks of excellence, or whatever you're trying to do, or if you're just trying to have a bit of fun by YOLOing people and just ramming into the enemy's light tanks and taking them out of the game, then this tank is actually really good for that. Whether you'd want to put a ramming build on it is another question, and certainly one that I'm actually considering trying out with the new speed boost equipment and a spool liner. That could actually be really fun. Maybe you will see that in a future video, but I don't know as of the recording of this video anyway. Now, this game's got a little bit better. We've not done awful, I should say. So we've got like what, 1,800 on our damage, and we've got 1,025 assist. So it's not fantastic. Certainly isn't a game that you'll probably be wowing over, but it's not a bad one. And certainly we can get some more damage in this game, considering there's 2 tanks left alive, and they're both on the hill here. They were both on full health as well until we arrived in a tank that can do 80 kilometers an hour. Still can't believe that's the thing in World of Tanks. But what you see here is the Wojciech and the Panzer. This is like a VKM at tier 6. It's a premium. Yeah, not a bad one, but it certainly isn't anything too special. And you'll see I accidentally just clip the side of the VKM, and we managed to actually take a lot of damage there, which is crazy considering we literally just touched the side of him and we lost 150 hit points. Bit of a misplay by me. Maybe I should have just taken the hit from him and gone round the other side, and we'd have been more likely to actually survive the encounter than we did, although our teammate did help us out and we did survive in the end anyway. We came top on our team, which wasn't too much of a surprise. We managed to pick up 2,652 damage and 1,025 assist, which isn't, you know, that fantastic on Prokhorovka being the light tank haven that Prokhorovka is. Now, I hope this kind of showed you, basically, how these 2 light tanks can really be super overpowered, how the speeds of these new equipment boosts can really affect the gameplay, and whether or not I personally think that they're overpowered, which I do. I genuinely think that they are just a little bit too good in game, but I'd like to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. As for how much this will actually set you back if you want to purchase both of the tanks, in terms of the gold value anyway, it will cost you around 7,600 gold to purchase them from the premium tech tree. Snakebite is 4,000 gold as standard, and it tends to get on sale fairly regularly, not on its own usually, it's part of a bundle, but certainly if you want to pick it up then you can, and I did pick it up as part of a bundle, but that was because I already own the 2 tanks in the bundle, so I got it at a significant discount. And also got the gold value back for the other tanks in the bundle, so it was just the Snakebite I didn't have, so it only cost me 2,700 gold for the Snakebite and the Commander as well that comes with it. I think it's Simon Linné or something very similar to that. If you want to pick up the T50-2, I think it's about 3,600, somewhere around there. It's going to cost you, what, £20 maximum to pick up both of the tanks in this game, which is, you know, not too bad for the amount of enjoyment that you'll actually get out of these two. And if you just want to pick up one of them because you like the playstyle that you've seen today, then I would definitely recommend it, because they are just super, super fun in game. And yeah, it very rarely smile on this game when I'm playing in my light tanks, but yeah, these two definitely make you do that. And I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. There'll be plenty more content coming soon for World of Tanks, and if you want to subscribe for that, then you can do. Obviously, you can check out some content on screen that will just be a link with some gameplay playlist and also some guide playlist as well. So if you want to check out either of those, you can do. If you want to look at some other content that's more recent and isn't either of those playlists, that will be on my channel that you can just have a look at. But other than that, I hope you guys do have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.